Time now for Golf Today Roundtable as we welcome in Golf Week senior writer Beth-Ann Nichols and our colleague Grant Boone, who is on the call this week. Beth-Ann, I want to start with you. Stacy Lewis is captain again, as is Suzann Pettersen. How much pressure do you think Stacy Lewis is feeling in trying to avoid becoming, I should say, the first American captain to lose 2 in a row?
Well, I'm sure Stacy will downplay it, but I know that she's got to be feeling some of that inside when you look at the fact that the Americans haven't won since 2017. But I do think that Stacy's done a great job of really making sure that, first of all, the foundation in the team room is good, the culture is good, that the players, they know what they're playing for. And I think grit is a component that she's talked about, that she's felt like they've needed a little bit more of. And I think that played a factor in who she picked.
Grant, as you look at Team Europe here, if you just put them on paper, it feels like Team USA has the more talent. Then you look at the results in these last 3, and it hasn't gone Team USA's way. Team Europe enters as the underdog. Is that an accurate vibe going into this thing, in your opinion, Grant?
Well, it depends on what your metric is. If you're saying, which team ought to be favored based on team play and recent Solheim Cup performance, absolutely, Europe ought to be the favorite. If you're looking at how they stack up individually, which I think is how we've looked at the Ryder Cup in years past and why we've been so surprised that Europe has won so many times, even though Americans have individually been better, then yes, you'd absolutely give the advantage to the Americans. I mean, there's been one European player win on the LPGA Tour this season, and she's not on the team. It's Linnea Strom of Sweden, who came from behind to win the ShopRite LPGA Classic back in June. And you look at the Americans, you got 5 different winners on the LPGA Tour this year. You've got Nelly Korda, far and away #1 in the world. I think Lilia Vu is a clear #2 in the world. They have the advantage, but they have to go out and do it. And by the way, let me just clarify something. Stacy didn't lose last year. It was a tie.
She doesn't have the trophy on her mantelpiece, Grant.
But it was a tie.
It might be a tie, but it still counts as a loss in these kind of team events. Beth-Ann, there's only 2 rookies on either side here, and I'm curious how you read that. Do you see that as a sign of the depth of talent that's out there, or do you see 2 captains, one trying not to lose a second time in a row, the other one under an equal amount of pressure, you could say, to try to keep the European streak going? Are they not gambling on inexperience, or do you think they just have a wealth of talent that they can choose from without having to go to too many rookies?
Well, I think there's probably a third factor here in that it was such a short turnaround. We just had the last Cup last year, and that's obviously very unusual. And so I think there wasn't as much time for players to make an impact, make an impression, to push themselves onto the team. But I definitely think, in the case of Suzann Pettersen, she went with some familiarity here. But I think, Lauren Coughlin, she's one of the best players in the world right now, one of the hottest players in the world. So, she was going to be on that team one way or another. And Sarah Schmelzel, when I mentioned grit earlier, that's the player that I was referring to, because Stacy sees a lot of grit in her. And I think that was a big reason that she got on the team. She's extremely passionate and ready to play.
Grant, as you look at these 2 teams, you can easily point to, okay, the most talented person on each team is the most important piece, but it doesn't always go that way. When you look at Team USA, you look at Team Europe, who's the most important player on both sides?
I would say on the American side, I'm going to look at Lexi Thompson. She's the most experienced player on the U.S. team. She's one of only 2 Americans to have been part of a winning Solheim Cup team. She's just done that on a couple of occasions. The other is Allison Lee, who hasn't played on a Solheim Cup in 9 years. Lexi last year was given really the ball, if you want to look at another sports analogy, by Stacy Lewis. She was asked to play a lot, hadn't played much in the summer of last year, played a lot leading into the Solheim Cup. She hit the very first shot of the Solheim Cup. She was really good. She went 3-1 last year in Spain, and she hit really one poor shot in 3 days. But she was a big reason why the U.S. Tied Europe 14 apiece. And this is her swan song. And it would not surprise me in the least if Lexi had a Suzann Pettersen moment and a walk-off type moment at RTJ. And for the European side, I'm going to go with Leona Maguire. I mean, Leona, to me, has ascended to those ranks If you want to look at a Ryder Cup analogy of an Ian Poulter, before that, Colin Montgomery, she wants the ball. Good luck trying to bench Leona Maguire. You might get decked. I mean, she wants to play every match. She has played every match. She's been brilliant each time. She hasn't, like most of the European players, other than Esther Henseleit, she really hasn't been playing great. But when it's Solheim Cup time, she finds a way.
Following up on that, Beth Ann, both Rose Zhang and Lilia Vu are very prominent members of this team. They didn't have a great outing last year in the Solheim Cup. Do you think they feel a little bit of extra incentive and or a little bit of extra pressure to deliver what's expected of them given their stature this time around?
I absolutely do. I think that these are two players that, when you're in the top 10 in the world, you're expected to deliver. And I think it's going to be a really tall mountain to climb for Team USA if these two don't have a better showing. And when you talk to players, toward the end of their career, their record matters. It matters deeply to them. And obviously neither one of them have been on a winning Solheim Cup team, and they'll be looking to turn that around.
Grant, it's always a sport in team events like this. We see it in the Ryder Cup as well when the second guessing begins. And sometimes you can actually start to identify where that second guessing is coming from early. I'm curious about a couple of Suzann Pettersen's captain's picks in Alban Valenzuela and Emily Pedersen, neither of whom have been playing particularly well at all recently. Now, Emily played well last time out in the Solheim Cup. Is there a danger that Suzann is doing what we've seen a lot of team captains do in the past and perhaps over-investing in the form the last time this event was played rather than what the individual has done since then?
Well, I think if she was going to do that, she would have picked someone like Gemma Dryburgh again, or maybe Caroline Hedwall, who was so brilliant last year. I mean, when she picked Hedwall and Pedersen, it turned a lot of heads, but in reality, Caroline Hedwall had been playing brilliantly in Europe. And Emily Pedersen was a top 3 ball striker on the LPGA Tour at the time that she was picked. Pedersen has fallen back in that category and really has struggled for most of this year. Alban has flirted a couple of times, including in Thailand earlier this year. She finished second to Patty Tavatanaka at the LPGA event there. Alban was right there on that bubble last year and wasn't picked. I really think, Eamon, as you look at Suzann's options, as opposed to Stacy's, and to your point earlier, there weren't a lot of candidates who had really elbowed their way to the front of the line. There weren't a lot of great candidates. I mean, you could look at Bronte Law maybe and say how she had played on the LET. I thought I know she got a strong look by Suzann. I just don't think there were an overabundance of European players playing at a high level when you compare that, for example, to an Angel Yin, who in her last 2 starts had a 2nd and a 10th place finish, with the 10th being at St. Andrews at the AIG Women's Open. I think Stacy had a lot more options at her disposal, players who were playing well, than Suzann did.
Beth Ann, Grant just mentioned Angel Yin. She missed by 1 spot in the points criteria to make Stacy Lewis's team. She also missed by 1 spot in the world ranking to make the team. Is there a case she should be on this team and that maybe one of the other captain's picks Stacy went with had less of a case to be there?
Well, I definitely think that raised a few eyebrows, especially when you look at recency bias. But she also broke an ankle during the offseason and wasn't able to compete for quite a large part of the beginning of the season. So there was a smaller body of work to look at. I also think that Stacy looks at the old course at St. Andrews, even though she won there, and says, hey, that's probably not going to be a whole lot like what we're going to see here this week. I also think team chemistry matters. I think that when you look at who Stacy picked in terms of veteran players that even the rookies that have they blend well with the team that she already had in place. It's a very mature team, and I think that that she just blends well in the team room, which you could say the same thing for Emily Pedersen and in Suzann's pick. That was a lot about the team room as well. She loves her fire.